Cool shoes. My brother would love those.
Ooh, I don't share my sources.
Well, I just found them using Circle to search with Google on my new Samsung Galaxy Z Fold 6.
What?
And I texted them to my brother on the other side of this massive screen.
Where did you get that phone?
Lucky for you, I don't gatekeep my sources. Tell them.
Get your own Galaxy Z Fold 6 now at Samsung.com. Requires internet connection. Results may vary by uniqueness, clarity, and framing of circled image and related factors.
Today on CityCast Boise, we're looking at the increased extremism in our area and the U.S. Attorney General's United Against Hate Summit in Idaho. And housing's scarce in Boise, but would you want to live near the airport? Plus, our notes about the secret lives of Mormon wives. It's Friday, September 13th. I'm Lindsay Van Allen, and this is what Boise's talking about. Joining me today is our executive producer, Frankie Barnhill. Thanks for being here.
Hey, Lindsay. Good to be here. We got stuff to talk about for sure this Friday.
There's a lot to talk about, so let's just jump right in it. There was a pretty big news story that the U.S. Attorney General's office is going to have a United Against Hate Summit in Idaho.
Yeah, in Moscow, and that's coming up, on Monday. So folks up there, if you're listening, that's a cool opportunity to learn more about what the U.S. Attorney's office and the DOJ are focusing on. But it's interesting that it's happening in light of the big arrest this week in Boise, which I know that you spoke with Idaho Statesman reporter Nicole Blanchard. We're going to have that in-depth conversation on Monday, but this arrest of this guy, this Matthew Allison in downtown Boise, that was big blockbuster news this week.
Well, yeah, because he was inciting terrorism. Like I'm not all of white supremacy is bad. All of that is wrong and hateful and should absolutely be objected to and stopped. But it's slightly different than like your uncle's ranting Facebook post and actually inciting terrorism that led to people dying.
So in light of this summit happening, at the same time, we're combating hate crime with a guy who actually was living in downtown Boise and is connected to this multinational white supremacist, anti-queer group. Did you read how, it was tied to actual, legitimate crimes in Slovakia? There
are people that took credit or gave this Boise guy credit for people they actually truly murdered. So his impact led to people dying. And we've kind of had this bubble up in recent years, or it's come maybe above the hateful muck surface, where we've had that group of neo-Nazis who tried to take out the Idaho power grid.
Right.
And, we had that attack on North Idaho Pride. One of the reasons the Attorney General's office held this summit or is holding this summit is they said, Idaho just continues to grapple with unlawful hate. So we're becoming infamous.
Yeah, have been and continue to. And just kind of this can't shake this reputation. And it's a vicious cycle of this reputation established decades ago, particularly with, of course, the Aryan nations in North Idaho. And then, the efforts on people in Coeur d'Alene to kick those Nazis out and get rid of Richard Butler and all of that. And, the efforts in Boise to combat hate. And even still, it's it's a vicious cycle. These people are attracted to Idaho, and we need to be paying attention and be vigilant and being aware of, why would this man feel comfortable doing business, doing his hateful acts, his hate crimes outside of an apartment in downtown Boise?
Well, and it speaks to, there's conversations we've had with, Heath Drusen about extremism in Idaho. And I think sometimes we always want to just lump it in North Idaho. But clearly that's not the case.
Right.
Clearly, the whole Idaho being the redoubt, people moving here, claiming they're political refugees, clearly that is having an impact on the extremism that we're seeing within the state.
And Boise's not immune. Exactly.
No.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. the legislature, just thinking about the kinds of, rhetoric and let alone the policies in Idaho, especially since this guy, according to the indictment, was connected to these particular anti-queer, anti-LGBTQ crimes around the world, and thinking about what the legislature's done to really make life for queer folks, for LGBTQ folks in Idaho, hell in recent years. And that speaks volumes, and it makes people feel like they're unwelcome, and it makes people apparently, seemingly, like this Matthew Allison, feel comfortable being here.
And I'm hoping, I don't think this summit is the end all be all.
No.
And it's not going to fix it. But we definitely need to, this isn't something where you can just look the other way and hope that it goes away. That I definitely think this is something we need to be shining a light on. We need to be talking about this. We need to be really upfront, not dancing around what this is. This is white supremacy. This is hate speech. This is, these are actual things that actually impact people. And in the case of the guy arrested in Boise, led to people losing their lives. Like, this isn't a difference of opinion, I guess. This is something where we need to directly call out what this is. And hopefully this summit is legitimizing these efforts, or really, building up these efforts to have these conversations about what is happening in Idaho and what do we need to do to counter it.
Yeah. As I said, we're going to have that conversation with Nicole, who's been covering this arrest and what it means on Monday. Was there anything that stood out to you, though? Just give us a little preview of that conversation, as it relates to like how he was communicating with people around the world, and that, because there's the whole like the Terragram Collective is what it's referred to, right?
Yes, yeah. I think one of the things that was most shocking to me, and we're going to get into it in a lot of detail, was just this guy's reach. That this guy, just sitting at his house in Boise, in his apartment in Boise, was able to have reach all around the world and to influence what was happening all around the world, and became prolific in this sector of Telegram for inciting terrorism. And so it, I think it spoke to, this isn't just, we have the Richard Butler situation in North Idaho before. This is so different.
Mm-hmm. It's a new generation.
Yes. Yeah. The amount of reach, this isn't, on a compound, and I'm not trying to diminish that. That was terrible. Right. That was awful. I'm glad it was dealt with. But this is entirely different with the scope and the reach and how much of an impact these white supremacists are able to have on the entire world.
Yeah. And I think, again, the DOJ being on top of this, U.S. Attorney's Office being on top of this in coordination, of course, with federal authorities and the city of Boise, the police department. What a big thing this was this week. And it's kind of wild because it wasn't like we knew. Of course, we didn't know this guy was already there, right? That was the whole point, is he was arrested out of nowhere. And now we're reading like, oh, he's been living in downtown Boise. Like, I don't know. Have I seen him at Trader Joe's? Like, what, it's crazy.
Yeah. Well, and his accomplice, I found out his accomplice, who was from California, was looking to move here. So this area felt welcoming enough that she felt like she was going to be safe and welcome here and would fit in here. Also being someone who incites terrorism. So maybe some reevaluation, maybe some work we need to do to recognize the problems that are within our communities and our state, and, kind of decide who do we want to be and how do we want to get there.
Cool shoes. My brother would love those.
Ooh, I don't share my sources.
Well, I just found them using Circle to Search with Google on my new Samsung Galaxy Z Fold 6.
What?
And I texted them to my brother on the other side of this massive screen.
Where did you get that phone?
Lucky for you, I don't gatekeep my sources. Tell them.
Get your own Galaxy Z Fold 6 now at Samsung.com. Requires internet connection. Results may vary by uniqueness, clarity, and framing of circled image and related factors.
Now, two pigeons bemoaning the fact you can stream DirecTV satellite-free.
These humans can stream all the top-rated national news channels on DirecTV, and now with no satellite dish.
This just in. Weather, sports, election coverage. DirecTV has it all, but something is missing. The satellite dish.
What are you doing?
I'm reporting the news. Back to you, Bob.
Here's some news. You're a buffoon.
Stream the top-rated national news channels. No satellite dish. Visit DirecTV.com. Internet required. Top-rated news based on 2023 Nielsen ratings.
Frankie, did you see that Boise might be getting more housing, high-density housing, which we absolutely need, but there is a catch to this housing.
Yeah, there is. So this Boise Dev, Margaret Crammell, shout out Margaret always, did a great in-depth report on this. We'll link to it in the show notes about how, earlier this week, the city council voted to approve a project from a developer that means that 174 apartments, something like that, going to be out really close to the airport. It's like Maple Grove and Overland. But what's interesting about this is that it squeaked by. There were a lot of contentious debate, and there had to be, three rounds in the voting in order to get it passed, because there's these, policies and overlap, very confusing stuff. But all that's to say, by the airport, they're going to try and build, housing for 175-ish units, which, as you mentioned, housing is desperately needed. Part of the city's perspective on the housing crisis is we need more housing, that the supply is the problem. Supply is the main thing that we can attack. And so approving something like this has been definitely in the wheelhouse, definitely in what, the city council is interested in, especially given the zoning code change from last year with higher density. But it didn't come without some detraction and some, folks on the council voting against this.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, this was not an easy win or a simple vote. And one of the big issues is the location.
Yep.
And its proximity to the airport. So people in this housing, how often are you going to have a jet flying over your house? How often, the planes leave Boise Airport pretty early. So are you going to, get this apartment and, first morning at 5:45, be like, oh, damn.
Right?
I might have made a mistake here.
Yeah.
And so, we need more housing, but there's also the question of quality of life.
Totally.
That comes with the housing. That yes, we need housing, but do you want to live where you're quality, we need housing, but is this the answer if it really affects people?
And there's studies out there, national studies that have been done about, noise issues and what that can do for, physical and mental health for people who live really close to loud places, including airports in particular, and that sound overhead all the time and what it can do. And besides the fact, potentially disturbing sleep, all of that. And, it's interesting that these are apartments. This isn't, these are for renters. And it always kind of, it's fascinating because it's like, who are we going to put out by the airport? It's going to be people who aren't, at least not right now, able to buy or not interested in buying, or most likely they don't feel like they have access to actually purchasing a home. And so, fascinating to see this new world of this zoning code that, in fact, actually, the zoning code didn't take into account that apparently there was this very specific rule because of the airport that density isn't really allowed in this exact way. So they basically had to make an exception to the exception in order to pass this, which was one thing that city council members Jimmy Halliburton and city council member Lucy Willits were opposed to, saying like, hey, this actually is kind of very contradictory to the policy that's in place. And the airport director was against it, which was interesting too. Yeah.
And it's not just about the city zoning. There are actually laws surrounding this with like the airport influence area. So that's like areas where they don't recommend that you build because you're going to have jets all over your house all the time and noise issues. And so the Federal Aviation Administration has regulations surrounding that. And if cities don't follow these rules and allow housing to encroach too close to an airport, it can result in losing federal grant funds. So this could impact Boise financially. So in an effort to it's kind of a rob Peter to pay Paul thing in an effort to like, we've got to have housing. Let's ignore these regulations and just build housing anyway.
It's so interesting to see how they're trying to balance this very acute demand and need for more housing while also recognizing, well, where is there available land? Where is there space to do these kind of projects? There's a reason why it hasn't existed before by the airport. Exactly what you said. I misspoke. It was, it's the federal regulation that's in conflict with the zoning code, which is fascinating. Would you want to live by the airport?
No. My parents they live in Rexburg, and they live right by the Rexburg airport, which is nothing like the Boise airport. It's Rexburg. And they had planes flying over their house constantly. And I did not enjoy any part of that. Like you kind of get used to it, but it's not like ideal.
I mean, Rexburg's not going to be nearly as busy as the Boise airport.
No.
But even still, it like affected your quality of life or just the experience of being there in the house during the day or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. Like, you get, cause it's a lot of like, it's not commercial. So like, these are like little planes, but you get like the hobby pilot who's like, I want to go out at 4 a.m. cause he's got nothing else to do, I guess. And so, yeah, then you got the planes flying at 4 a.m. Like, it's just, it does impact sleep. It does impact quality of life. And that's not even close to what it would be like living near the Boise airport. And like you said, I feel like this is going to be one of those situations where it particularly impacts people of a certain socioeconomic group.
Yeah.
And, I kind of feels like hey, we made housing for you, Pavos. Like, what are you complaining about? You have a house, you have an apartment. Why would you complain? When I think if you ask the majority of people, they're not going to want to live in a jet path. That's not, nobody's like, I'm seeking that out. That's actually a top 5 thing I want for my housing. Like, nobody's
a bucket list item for me.
House hunters, nobody was looking for jet path. I do think it's interesting that the city council is going to require the company to disclose to tenants, quote, the possibility of jet noise. That's going to be on page 9 of the contract in size 2 font. Like, there's a possibility.
There's just a chance. I wonder too, we'll see we don't know how much these apartments are going to cost. They're not, it's not a project that's quote unquote affordable housing under the HUD's rules. So who will want to live there? Who will choose that? Will they not really have a choice because of the housing situation that they're in? That remains to be seen. I also think, obviously, I'm always like, is there really is this really how bad it is that they have to build that close to the airport? And so, I would think that this developer is aware of the market demands because, of course, they're not going to want to invest in something unless they feel like there's people who are going to pay them to live there. But there's just a part of me, it's like, wow, really? I feel like there's other spots first. But again, with the city's goals of a certain number of units and a certain amount of time that they're really trying to rapidly build, this is it was the perfect example of the kind of trade-offs and challenges of making Boise a more affordable place, more options for people, while also recognizing that this location might kind of be a bummer if you actually live there.
Okay, Frankie, my pick of the week is maybe a little different than what I normally promote or talk about. But I just really want to talk about it with everybody. Have you watched The Secret Lives of Mormon Wives?
Oh, boy. Okay. I have watched the first 2 episodes. I have not gotten through it all. I've not binged it yet, but I did start watching it with my husband sitting next to me last night, and he was like, "Oh my God," and didn't want to watch it. And I looked over, and he was hooked too. So we binged 2 in a row.
I'm telling everyone, you got to get past the first episode, and you will be hooked. I also got my husband hooked. I was like, I have to talk with you about this. Like, you've got to watch it for me. And he was hesitant at first, and now, he's hooked.
Okay, so tell us, because you were raised in the LDS Church, mm-hmm. and so this is the whole Mormon experience and the experience of being a Mormon wife and a young wife. I'm just curious, like, what's standing out to you about this story so far?
Oh, so much. There is I know it's reality TV. I get it. I get this reality TV. I get this dramatized. But there is so much on there that I'm like, oh, they nailed it. Like they clearly have somebody who's familiar with the culture or the religion working on this. But yeah, the young wife thing, like people are being so shocked about these young wives. I went to high school in Rigby, and there were girls in my high school who were 16, 17, 18 marrying 21-year-old return missionaries. And so that was in the early 2000s. That was not uncommon. That was not unheard of. So I have people online have been like, is that real? Yes. Wow. That's absolutely real.
When the one character was like, yeah, I was 16 and he was I was 17 and he was 21. I was like, oh girl, wait, what?
Yes. Oh no, I had classmates doing that. Like I had people I graduated with who did that. Yeah. Just this idea of like, I can really relate to it. I got married young. I had kids young. That's the cultural and religious expectation. That's really what you do. And so a lot of, I can really relate to this overall theme in the show of like, okay, but who am I outside of being a wife and mother, which is, what I've been taught my whole life I need to be. Who am I outside of that? And how many of those choices did I make because I wanted to make them, or because I was, I'll use this word, groomed from childhood in my religion to make these choices? And so what does that look like? I think that is maybe the overall theme for me. And yes, some of them are, everybody copes in different ways. I'm not saying what they're doing is right or positive or, it's reality TV. But I can really relate to that. And I was surprised how much that theme is present in the show.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, reality TV, it's trashy TV. We're enjoying it. We're hate watching it. We're whatever. But so it kind of seems like there's a little more depth to it than you were expecting, or like, because I'm kind of coming at it from someone who wasn't raised in the church, going, oh my gosh, are they inflating this, or are they just dramatizing it for the sake of views? What do you think?
I think there's definitely some dramatizing. There's definitely it seems like they're forcing conflict between characters. Of course, if you've watched Real Housewives, I think of course the producers and directors are like forcing conflict. That's what gets people watching. But they are touching on a lot of themes that are real and are present, a lot of questions of what makes you a good person. And that is something I struggled with when I was Mormon, like not feeling like I was a good person because I made mistakes. And so a lot of them are grappling with, am I a good person even if I make mistakes or don't do everything completely orthodox? And this conflict of, within Mormonism, do you view yourself as a better person if you follow the rules better than other people?
Sure.
Because there becomes this division of, they call themselves the sinners and the saints. And that is, like, they really spell it out, as sinners and saints. That's a really real conflict when you're Mormon, of this idea of, am I a good person, or do my outward actions show that I'm a good person, or can you judge that I'm a good person by my outward actions? That is so real within Mormonism and the LDS faith.
Yeah. I mean, it's set in Utah, but it could have been set in Idaho. So.
Oh, 100%. 100%. Like they keep talking about Utah culture. I'm like, I was LDS in Idaho. It's not that different. It's really not that different. So yeah, it's reality TV, but there was a lot. I have lots of friends who used to be Mormon and, some, or LDS, and all of us have talked, like, it brings stuff up for all of us. Like,
I wondered, does it kind of, I'm watching this, but it's kind of hard to watch because it reminds you of experiences that you've had, or challenges, things you overcame, or.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. It's bringing up stuff for everyone, because a lot of times our families are still LDS. So this is something we still, like, grapple with, like, not to be a spoiler, but like somebody's having a baby blessing, and they talk about, I don't want anybody who's not perfect or a saint at the baby blessing. And that's something like my family members don't invite us to their baby blessings because we don't believe the same that they do. And so that is really real. That is like, I could really relate to the characters being like, so because I'm not good enough, because I don't believe like you do, because I'm not perfect, I don't get to go be part of this family cultural celebration, welcoming a baby into the family. Like, it really is very real and very present. Like, it's, of course, dramatized so people will watch it, but it's really real. And everyone I'm talking to who has that background is like, oh, some stuff is coming up. Like, we're having to talk about this. We're having to talk about the patriarchy within Mormonism, or beliefs we had, or maybe things we realized we hadn't unpacked all the way, or ways it's still impacting us.
Okay, well, I'm hooked, so I will watch it. I'll finish it, and then I'll have more questions for you later.
Oh yeah,
so.
I'm recommending everybody watch it. It is. I know it's trash TV. I know it might not be your thing. You should absolutely watch it. It is wild. It is. Yeah, I binged it all in like less than 24 hours.
I think that's definitely gonna be my Friday night. Okay. My pick of the week is that on Saturday. It's actually about you, Lindsay. You're my pick of the week. On Saturday, you're going to be emceeing at Boise Pride in downtown at Cecil Andrus Park from 11 to 3, right?
Yes. Yeah. I'll be emceeing at the rally, and then throughout, I guess, the rest of the morning and early afternoon.
Yeah. I was looking at the schedule. You'll be there for like some different dance performances, a Rocky Johnson band performing, a Coco Frio drag performer who you've talked with on the podcast. That should be really fun.
Oh, I think it is going to be so much fun. And for our listeners, I'm going to give you a little heads up, a little inside info.
Oh yeah, pay attention, everybody.
Yes, we are going to we got exclusive, single run merchandise.
We've limited run.
Limited run. Thank you for knowing that word. Single run. I don't know. I've never had merch before, guys. I don't know. But we've got this limited run. It's beanies, CityCast Boise beanies. My 13-year-old is a beanie aficionado and let me know that they are high quality, really good beanies. So
we got the good stuff.
Yeah, we got the good stuff. We're not chincing out on you. And so I will be throwing them to the crowd throughout the time I'm emceeing. So especially people who follow the show, listen to the podcast, subscribe to the podcast, and subscribe to our Hey Boise newsletter. So those are going to be some of the things I'm looking for, along with cheering and just having an amazing time at Pride. So if you want to get only 12 people in all the Treasure Valley will have these beanies.
Incredibly exclusive.
Exclusive club. Very exclusive club. So if you want to get your beanie, make sure you're subscribed, because that's something I'll be asking about.
Yes. Oh, it's going to be so much fun. I'm so glad you're doing this. And happy Pride weekend for those who are headed down. Be safe, have fun, and be joyful, I guess.
It's going to be awesome. Boise, we've earned it. It is Pride time.
100%.
That's all for today here on CityCast Boise. The show is produced by Evelyn Avitia, Frankie Barnhill, and me, Lindsay Van Allen. Blake Hunter writes our Hey Boise newsletter with help this week from Adrian Gonzalez. And our music is by Up Is The Down Is The. If you enjoyed our show today, leave us a review. It helps other people find us. We'll be back on Monday with an update on the Boise man charged with inciting terrorism. See you then.